So in this video, I'm going to be talking through the 12-mark question from the Component 3 exam on DNA. So in this question, this is an as a director question. So we're trying to make sure that throughout this, we are using sentence starters that show we're doing it from the perspective of a director. As in, as a director, I would, being the best example. So do consider that directing is key here. Now this question in particular is asking you how you would direct the actor. So a question itself will say a statement about a character, so something like Phil says I'm in charge. It then will ask you how you would direct your actors to bring the extract to life. So with this, it tells you what to focus on. It gives you a fact that you're trying to back up and evidence throughout your direction. And also, the best thing about this is it gives you 3 bullet points as to what you need to include in this answer. So that means when we side out our answer in a moment, you know you've got to do it 3 times because it asks you to consider vocal skills, physical skills, and stage space. So that means we're aiming for 4 marks per paragraph on each of those skills. Now it might be that it's one example in detail within that paragraph, or it might be a couple of examples of vocal skills within the same paragraph or physical skills within the same paragraph. But there's 3 sections. Voice, physical, and stage space. So similarly to the 6 marker that we've mentioned before in the as an actor question, these are the things that you should be trying to cover in this section. So what we're going to do is we're going to work our way through the cider of this question. So for context, it is really good to kind of say your understanding of the character or your vision. So for example, if the question is about Danny, for example, you might say something like, I perceive Danny as a selfish character, therefore within this extract, I am directing the actor to. Or maybe you're trying to link it to some other context, such as, that's meant to be of the play. So some other context such as maybe the character in a different point of the play, or maybe like what's happened to the characters before the point that you are in. So for example, if you're doing this question on Brian in Act 3, you can mention, before this point, when the audience have met Brian, he has been crying. I want to juxtapose that in this scene where he is losing mental control. I would tell the actor to, and then you go into your vocal skills, for example. Okay. And then another thing you can do is you can link it to the original production. So the original National Theatre production you can link it to, or you can link it to what Dennis Kelly was talking about and thinking of at the time. Now, this might be a bit tricky to do in your opening sentence, but it's a kind of a weird requirement of this question that you need to reference the context in which the way the play was created and first performed, but also show a complete understanding of the character. Because it's quite simple to bring the extract to life as an actor, but to direct, it's having that little bit of extra knowledge of what the play is actually trying to achieve in terms of themes and issues, what you're there trying to achieve for the audience in terms of feeling sympathy for the character or questioning what's going on, and also how it kind of fits into the rest of the play too. So if you can try and establish that in your first sentence, that's you kind of checking off that invisible thing from the question. You're saying, I know what this play is about in your first sentence. It might be that you choose just to say something about your vision and then you move on to mentioning all of this later on, and I'll tell you how to do that in a moment. So the next thing that I would do is I would identify your key vocabulary. So this is very, very similar to the other kind of examples that we've given. So with your vocabulary, you're saying the vocal skill of pitch, tone, intonation, the physical skills of levels, gait, body language, the stage space of proxemics, centre stage, downstage, that kind of thing. You're saying the key word straight away. That's you making sure you're getting that mark for that subject-specific terminology as well. In here as well, remember you could put a really good quote in. So something like, on the line, da 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 da, I would use intonation. Then for your discussion, you're going into the details. So be very, very specific. Don't just throw the keyword in, you've got to say the how here. So if you're talking about a facial expression, don't just say a sad facial expression. You've got to kind of say with a, my eyebrows pushed in and my lips turning downwards to show a sad facial expression. I would use my hands either side of my face to show that I am shocked, kind of thing. You're trying to give as much detail as possible. This is because it's showing that you can direct, okay? I just realised I was saying I would. You don't need to say I would. You need to say I would tell the actor to do this. I would tell the actor to react like that. It's making it sure it's coming from the perspective of a director. It's so easy to slip into that habit because we're used to doing things as actors. Make sure you're really hitting this as a director. So that is the details there. Then for the evaluate, this is where it could be a good idea to link back up to this lovely stuff if you didn't do it at the start. So you're saying the effect of your idea or the aim. You're basically justifying your reason. So it might be you're justifying them doing a certain movement because it links to the theme of violence, for example. You can also, with this too, link it to that statement that comes in the question. So if Phil is trying to say he's in charge, you can say, by shouting on the line, I am in charge, this shows Phil is trying to show his authority to the group. One thing I will say is try not to have the same justification for each one of your answers, like mini-sided paragraphs, because it kind of gets a bit repetitive. So you want to make sure that, yes, you're proving the point of the question, but also you're seeing it as a more holistic, directed vision rather than just the one thing. And of course, the R is so important here because the audience is central for the response. So everything you're doing is linking to the audience. So you need to have a clear message or outcome for them. So just to quickly recap, you do 3-sided paragraphs, one on each of the bullet points. You say your vision and maybe the context at the start. You identify the vocabulary. You describe it in as much details as possible. You talk about the effect and how that links to either the question or maybe one of the themes and contexts. And then you link it to the audience experience. So if we do that for each of the skills, that should be able to get you that level 4, level 5 response. So looking at like 8 to 12 marks, for example. So hopefully this has helped. Best of luck in your revision and hopefully best of luck in the exam too.